Hey, what's up everybody? BDL44 coming at you with another video. All right. Whew. It is hot. And I guess I'll talk a little Lakers. I haven't talked about them in about a couple of days. Of course, we just found out our team was sold. And again, a lot of people unhappy. Some people saying they ain't gonna be fans no more. I don't think it works like that for me personally. But I will say I'm unhappy enough that it was sold to a Kushner. As anybody who would be unhappy about it, I definitely am. I ain't mad at people who aren't as diehard as I am saying we cool. I definitely get that. And I don't like how the situation looks. I don't. I ain't gonna pretend. It looks shady. It looks shady. The whole thing looks shady. But you know, when I look at myself and I look at my life and look at how things have gone, I really don't know what I would be doing if I wasn't a Laker fan. Half of the time I've been alive, I've been so focused on this team, it seems, and a good portion of who I am is wrapped up in not only my fandom, but my love of the game. A good portion of what it is that I've accomplished has been surrounding, focusing on this team and speaking about it to you guys. And so I don't anticipate that changing just because I don't like who necessarily owns the team. That doesn't mean that I'm going to support them or want to spend money, but then again, I wouldn't spend it anyway, so who am I to talk that way? But there would be some reaction to this, man. I'll tell the truth. If I were a season ticket holder, I probably wouldn't be this year. It's just, you can't really say that you're not a fan anymore, but you can definitely say that the enthusiasm has taken a hit. And I would be so much more comfortable if Miss Buss and the family still own the team. I would be very comfortable with them having the team right now. And unfortunately, that's just not the reality of the situation. They sold the team. They got what came with that, the money, and that's really what it is. So, you know, I'd feel great if Magic Johnson owned the team. I'd feel great if Jack Nicholson owned the team. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's not something we can do anything about as fans. We can either support or not. And like I said, I could say a lot about not being a fan, but when the games come on, I'm probably still going to be fighting myself to keep from watching them. And I know that about myself. So I give in to that understanding, and we'll see what happens over time. But that's the truth of the matter. I don't blame anybody for having a different opinion than that, or for saying I'm out. And I know there are some people who've been long-term fans for years, longer than I have, who are saying they're out. I'm not the guy to argue with you on that one, buddy. I've heard a lot of Laker fans. I wonder if people are paying them or not. But some people are scolding fans who are saying they out, calling them not real fans and all that. Nah, you ain't getting none of that here. It's not how I feel. That ain't how I feel at all. How I feel is Kushner owns the team now, and if he owned any other team, I'd be like, damn, that's shady. But that he owns my team makes it even worse. So I ain't really like on some, you're not a real fan if you don't support the team right now, because that negates some of the evil that people are reacting to that is taking place under that name. And so, and I throw the word evil around a lot. I really do. And maybe it's something that I should be more guarded in regards to using. But as I've given some thought as to what I understand about the Kushners, yeah, that is pretty much the word that comes to mind. So, with that being said, I'm very excited about the players. You know, at the end of the day, ownership is ownership. If they're doing what they're supposed to do, we won't see them very much. Our team will be well taken care of. And that's it. And that's exactly what I hope for. The only time I want to see these people, honestly, is when they are needing to answering my questions, if I have any questions about the team, or when it's time to hoist Larry O'Brien. Obviously, the trophy will be handed to them. Other than that, I don't really want to see these people. I really don't. And I ain't just speaking for the Kushner family. I'm talking about any owner, really. I don't want to see y'all at all. And I don't think you should be taking the trophy at the end of the season just because you pay all the bills. I really don't. You should get your chance to touch the trophy, but they shouldn't be handing it to you. I never agreed with that. It puts too much of a credence on the idea that paying bills is the most important thing, which is ultimately what capitalism is about in our country. It's not about who has the merit. It's about who holds the cash, who has the money, whose credit is great. And I just think that allows for a lot of nonsense. And we've talked about that many times on different subjects. But when it comes to the NBA, it's no different. Players and coaches should be touching the trophy. The owner, nah, he'll touch it after those guys touch it, in my opinion. And if he's a real good person, that owner, he's going to make sure his team touch the trophy first. It's a really good look. And I've only seen maybe one or two owners do that in the history of me watching championship ceremonies. But I have seen it done before, and I thought it was classy of the owner to make sure them players touch that trophy first. Make sure that coach and that coaching staff touches that trophy first, man. You didn't do nothing but pay the bills, and that don't require a whole lot of anything if you really want to consider it. You just happen to have the money. If I had the money, I could pay the bills. No problem. Hire the people that can keep up with everything. Just make sure they get their money. You're a name on a sheet of paper, buddy. And for that, you don't deserve too much thanks, despite what the culture has shown you. But, yeah, man, I think that's what it comes down to for me. If I'm going to boycott the team, then I'm neglecting support of the players. And that's just something I'm not willing to do. And you guys know I advocate for young players getting their opportunities. I've watched a lot of these guys grow. I'm not ready to abandon them because the person who writes that check isn't someone that I agree with. That's taking support away from people who still deserve my support, just because of the presence of people who don't stepping into the room. No, that's not necessarily how I want to approach my life, and that's not how I want to approach sports at all. But there is a such thing as not giving people your money if you don't agree with them, or if you think they're doing stuff that isn't moral, or you think they support things that ultimately are disgraceful to your morality. Yeah, there is a reaction you can have. But I still want to root on the players that don't have anything to do with that. That's what I want to do. So I think about Cameron Carr, I think about Otto Thero, I think about Austin Reeves, guys like that. I still want to see them succeed. It doesn't matter who's writing their checks. Are they running around? Are they laying it on the line? Are they playing hard? Are they respecting the game that I love? If that's the case, then they get my support. You know, that's really what it comes down to. And so that's how I choose to approach it. Now, if you telling me Jared Kushner's going to be running around in the uniform, that's an entirely different story. But if he's going to be behind the scenes in a booth somewhere paying all the bills, and I ain't got to see him, then me not giving him support and neglecting to pay support to my team, my favorite players or what have you, was a disservice to me and those players. And as we clearly see, ownership can change by the second. I'm not really sure what we're seeing isn't the start of something, which in theory could be very unfortunate, but in reality could be the start of a trend. Could this be the beginning of the era where it isn't abnormal to see a team sold 3 and 4 times in a matter of a decade? I don't know. This might be the beginning of something. You know, you consider the Lakers have just traded twice in a year. I don't know that we don't start seeing teams get flipped quickly. People cashing out. You consider what just is there to see in regards to the American economy and the fragility of American politics and stuff like that. It might be in your best interest if you're an owner to cash out while everything's stable in the world, because it doesn't look like it's gonna stay stable. So at any moment, if the worst comes to pass, a lot of what it is you own is going to lose value anyway. So having 20-year and 30-year plans, who knows when things are going to drop and how long it's going to take to recover. But some of the damage that's being done in the world right now, if you're up on politics and stuff, it may be a very long recovery. And so if you do plan on being somebody that makes a lot of money really quickly, or if you see an opportunity to make reasonable profits, it might be in your best interest to not be a long-term holder of a company or something like that, or sports, especially something that has to do with people having pastime money, money to just throw at their pastimes. I don't know that people are going to have a lot of money to throw at their pastimes. I don't know a lot of business owners are going to be in a position to be able to throw money away in the same ways that they are right now, maybe 7 years down the road. So it's like, if you have something that's worth 10 billion and it goes up to 12, it might not be the worst idea to sell it at 12. Because when it comes down to it, you may have to sell it at 4 if things go wrong in the world, or if something goes wrong with the business model for whatever damn reason. You might end up finding yourself selling it at 2 and you bought it at 12 or 10 or whatever. So it's like, I don't know if this isn't the beginning of people saying, you know what, let's cash out before this economy crashes out. You know what I'm saying? Because it very well may. If you're paying attention to what I'm paying attention to, that don't sound too crazy. So I think that might be something to consider when looking at what we're looking at here, that you may see another team get flipped, sold, and then sold again. That may be a trend. Maybe it's the days are over for a family to hold a team for 50 years and stuff like that. I don't even know if that's really a thing anymore. So that's something I've been thinking about. Mom and pop shops, families, and unless you're like a Rothschild, you ain't gonna be able to afford any of these American sports teams or UK soccer teams. And I'm like, you ain't gonna be able to afford these businesses if they're gonna keep rising in price. 10 billion, 12 billion. Like, that's more wealth than even billionaires have in a lot of cases. Some billionaires, they can't afford to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Especially if what they have isn't gonna continue to increase in price. If they're just throwing that money away as something that they love, I mean, who has that kind of money for real? Not too many, man. And if they do, how many of them gonna be interested in buying into the NBA and buying? So it's like, at some point in time, you have to think that the NBA market, as the team market prices, are gonna have to correct themselves at some point, which is another reason why I wonder if Mark Walter was getting out ahead of something. It's like, if these teams, you're trying to tell me an expansion team is gonna be upwards of $10 billion to start up? I mean, if I'm just looking at this at a very basic and surface level way of looking at things, you have to wonder if the NBA team's growth is not pricing just about the majority of people who would own the teams out of the market. You consider, like, you need two things to happen at once. You need people to be able to afford such a ridiculous price, and then actually care enough about the sport to pay that. Those two things coming together at once, with things like salary cap and restrictions. You see a guy like Ballmer, who has the money to do whatever with the team, but because of the restrictions of the teams themselves and the salary cap, can actually get in trouble for utilizing his wealth to build the best team he can for himself. It's like, why would a guy who has unlimited wealth want to jump into an arena where his money can't improve his product to the degree that ultimately would represent his wealth? That's why the salary cap, I think, is kind of outdated when you consider you got guys like Ballmer in place trying to get around the salary cap so they can put the best product on the floor. Yeah, we can get mad at Ballmer, for sure, for going and breaking the rules. But should we not look at the rules and say they're a bit outdated based on the wealth of the person who could potentially put this thing together? If a guy like Steve Ballmer, who has $100 billion, wants to pay LeBron James $7 billion to play basketball, why is there anybody in the way of either of those two things taking place? LeBron getting the $7 billion or Steve Ballmer playing the 7? He can afford it. And now you want him to spend $12 billion on a team, and then he gets in trouble for utilizing his money to fix up the place, basically? I don't know if that really, If I'm a billionaire like that, if I got that type of money, I don't know if jumping in that type of arena is worth it to me. Because how many places I can go into, how many type of businesses can I go into where it costs so much to buy the team, but then my money becomes useless once I get it? You see what I'm saying? Like, the cost to do business doesn't make sense at all to the unlimited billionaire. There are restrictions in that arena that you're not going to find anywhere else in the world for yourself. And so the NBA it doesn't, if I'm being completely honest with you, it doesn't really make any sense anymore. Teams are too expensive. The salary cap is still at a level that represents the limited buying power of certain billionaires, not the unlimited buying powers of the incoming unlimited wealth having owner. And because it hasn't caught up to the reality of who it allows to come into the game, it doesn't really make sense for the big man money guy to stay in the game. It doesn't make as much sense for him, because the thing that allows for him to have the edge on everybody else, he's handicapped from being able to use. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to correct itself. Is essentially what comes to mind. Either they get rid of that damn salary cap and come up with a better logic, or it's not going to make as much sense in theory for the big money man to keep the team. He going to sell the team at some point. And if you see that slope starting to form, yeah, you probably should get the hell out of there. If you sold your team at a profit, yeah, you should probably get the hell out of there. Now, I'm not sure where the slope actually peaks, because for all I know, these teams go of upwards of $20 and $30 billion in valuation before that peak takes its curve. But the reality is, it's got to curve at some point. No matter how much international revenue comes in to make it pumped up as worth what it is to our eyesight, the reality is, it really doesn't matter, because there's a restriction process that makes it not worth it anyway. And that's the problem with the salary cap. People want to know, why would Walter sell the Lakers and not the Dodgers? Because the Dodgers don't have a salary cap on what it is he can do with the money that he has to throw at it. There's no salary cap in baseball. He could build the best team possible. You see what I'm saying? He could build the best team possible. They don't put any restrictions on how much wealth he can pour into his investment. The NBA docks him for using too much because he got to keep up with the little guy, which is the opposite of what makes any damn sense at all. The little guy should be having to force to cough up more money to keep up with his ass. If we're doing things the right way. And so that's what's wrong with the NBA right now. Adam Silver is figuring out all these different gimmicks to make the business more popular, so it can garner a great deal of revenue. And popularity it equals revenue, of course. But then it becomes a conversation of the valuation of each team being overinflated in regards to how much sense it makes to own the team any damn way. The logic, the overall structuring logic of being an owner that pays $12 billion for a team that you can only pour $1 billion a year into, or $500 million a year into. And then the fans don't show up because the team ain't good. You get locked into contracts that may not be very good. It's too restrictive. And if I got unlimited money like Ballmer, there should be no reason why I have any restrictions at all. None. Especially if I'm spending $10, $12 billion on my damn team. So, like, that's what Adam Silver needs to be focused on. He needs to stop focusing so much on the stuff that he is focused on and start focusing on coming up with some type of logic, some type of structure that makes it make a bit more sense for the big man to stay in the game. And make a lot more sense for the little guy to be able to keep up with the big man. And it's not That logic is not in place right now. It's almost like they don't even realize it's a problem. And so, yeah, if you're asking me why I think Walter sold the team, yeah, it could be some stuff going on with that. But I think there's also another layer of that to look at. And I think I just described what I see there. It's just, it doesn't really make much sense to be buying the team for $10 billion, having it grow up $2 billion, and not selling it at that valuation. I could be wrong. Maybe you should wait till it goes up to 14 or 15 or maybe even 20. But at some point in time, you should probably get the hell out of there. And so we're going to see how the rest of the ownership groups, the ownership community reacts to what happens here with Ballmer. How are they going to react to Ballmer's breaking the rules on this collective bargaining thing? Of course, they got to prove that he did so. Fair. But I'm already past that. I definitely believe he did so. Now, how much do we come down on him? On one hand, there's a group of people, a good majority of people saying you better come down on him hard or you're considered soft. But if you come down on him too hard, I think some of the big money players are going to start leaving the game. Some of them big owners, the big boy tech bro owners, this is going to be a short tenure of them owning teams. They're gonna start pulling a Walter. They're going to get the hell out of there. So, like, that's what I think is going to end up happening. They're going to end up finding out people like Jeannie Buss are going to own the teams again. Or it's not going to even be that. It's just going to be people, super big billionaires, flipping these teams back and forth every 3 years, which can send each and every specific team into absolute chaos. You're talking about chaos, like unprecedented potential team and brand deterioration. You send a team too many different places. Now you got this owner coming in, want to go to this direction, hiring this bunch of people. And this owner comes in 2 years later, he's firing all those people. He wants to see a team in a different direction. It becomes potential nightmare. And if you have too many teams dealing with potential nightmares because of too much ownership turnover, what you have is a screwed up league losing money by the second. You got the wacky owner that's going to want to move the Lakers to his little hometown. That type of shit. He grew up in Iowa, so now he wants to move his Laker team to Iowa. That type of shit. You don't let that be what you end up signing up for. And that's why I say, like, there has to be a balance in the conversation between short-term rapid growth and long-term potential stability disruption, if I worded that correctly. In other words, for the sake of these short-term growth opportunities, they forego the ability to be stable. You can't allow yourself to forego the opportunity at a stable foundation going forward for your business. Just because you see an opportunity to cash out on something big amount. In the long run, you end up making less money, or your situation ends up having an expiration date that it otherwise wouldn't have if you would just kind of leave them big money opportunities on the side of the road for the sake of the stability that comes from more reasonable and passionate but maybe limited growth opportunities. You know, passionate, stable owners with a lot more to lose, being in place, keeping things stable, rather than Arab money type dudes coming in, Zionist money type dudes coming in with the ability to make an overnight transaction of $50 billion. Like, the people like that who are going to be gambling the entire team on a roulette table because they have it like that. This is what you're seeing right now, basically. More or less. And so that's what I want to say. I just think that long term, this could be the end of the NBA. Short term, people gonna make billions and billions of dollars. Long term, ain't gonna be no NBA if this goes the worst case scenario. So this is one of the reasons why I think the NBA ownership group should take a long, hard look at what Adam Silver is bringing to the table, man. Let's take a long, hard look at Adam Silver right now and see if what it is that he's putting together is what is going to help this thing stay alive for the next 100 years. Because if some of the stuff that he's implementing, some of these norms that he's making normal in this league take place, some of this gimmick crap continues to pass forward culturally through the league, somebody's going to be trying stuff that's going to really eat away at the value of this thing. It may not be him, but it may be the next person that comes in piggybacking his way of doing things. It could be bad. It could be bad for the NBA. Doing weird stuff with the schedules, whoring themselves off to different corporations who make their money doing God knows what under the table. So all type of possibilities that come about when you sell out. When you sell out. Not all money is good money, man. And that don't just apply to the damn streets. That applies to corporations as well. So that's what I say. I look at the Lakers and I say, private equity is destroying certain teams in this league. The Boston Celtics are at risk because of the ownership group. The Dallas Mavericks are at risk because of their ownership group. And I would imagine the Lakers are at risk now because of their ownership group. When you bring in private equity guys who are looking to just make a buck off whatever and aren't going to stick around with any patience or passion about whatever it is they put their money into, who, like I said, can make a transaction of $50 billion at a roulette table if they want to. When you let those people control the long term of what it is you have, you don't have a future because they're going to throw that thing away at the whim of whatever it is they feel. Whatever it is they feel, man, they're going to throw it away. This is not making money right now anymore. Toss it. Sell it to that dude. Who is that dude? I don't know. Sell it to him. That dude made his money off of doing all the worst stuff in the world. Who cares? He's the only one who can afford this, and I don't want it anymore. Like, that's the type of crap that you're opening the door for. So this country, sports-wise, is going to learn some hard lessons. Allowing private equity to own all these damn teams. But you're going to learn some hard lessons. These are not the most responsible of individuals. They're not. They're coming in with the bottom line on their mind and a very short attention span for growth. Like, they don't want to wait around. And if they see an opportunity at the growth they're looking for, they're going to cash out, man. They don't care about no damn team. They don't care about your city, your fans. They don't give a damn about your complaints or whether or not this team has your favorite player on it anymore or how long that player's been there. They don't care. Make me some money. Is this going to be a liability to my bottom line in my little time frame? Yes. Send his contract to our rival. I don't care. Mortgage all these damn picks. Who cares what happens to these fans? They're going to pay for whatever I put in front of them. And if they don't, I'll sell it to somebody. No problem. So that's really my take on things. As a fan, I look at these basketball players and I say, I already had issues with player development in this league and player evaluation and the culture of agents and representation, trying to push forth their intentions based on their little games outside of the organizations that represent these teams in these cities. And I was listening to somebody describe something that an agent was talking about in regards to being unhappy with the NBA because the NBA doesn't want to pay veterans players and stuff like that. These veteran players, y'all know how I feel about the idea of the veteran player. It's always a case-by-case basis. You always find a LeBron James or a Grant Hill who can still produce at a high level later in life. Al Horford, guys like that. You're always going to find guys, Vince Carter, who can still play at a high level well into their older age. But those are far and in between, man. Most of these older guys, they shouldn't be asked to run around up against 19-year-olds and 21-year-olds and stuff like that. They shouldn't even be asked to run around with those people. You're at risk to injury just trying to keep up with guys half your age. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these agents, because they have certain rapport with older players, they've been making hundreds of millions of dollars off single names. They want these guys to continue to stay in rotation because they're surefire bets for their game. I can keep selling James Harden to the Cleveland Cavaliers for $50 million a year. Why do I want to take a chance with a Malik Thomas rookie guy? And maybe he makes it, maybe he doesn't. I could continue to keep James Harden in rotation for 30 years. That's why they want you to keep on buying this or paying for the services of older players, because they're sure bets for them. Guys they trust that can stay in their Rolodex. People are going to continue to keep them hired, keep them employed. Keep on going to James Harden. James, But James ain't been ready to play at that level for a long time. But it's not about him being able to play at that level. It's about the agent being able to keep that secure money flowing in the direction of his bank account. He don't give a damn if that player can help his team or he eating too much of the cap to where you can't put nothing else on the floor that can beat the teams that you coming up against. He don't care about none of that. He care about his business. So he wants you to think that you got the wrong idea by kicking old guys the hell out of the league and giving those same roster spots to young players who've yet to prove themselves. A lot of times when young players are going to be just as good as a James Harden, if they develop correctly, they're going to be just as much of a cash cow. But it's not a surefire bet for these agents, so they're not happy about it. They don't feel as good. They don't want to leave their business in the balance of whether or not young Malik is going to become that guy or not. They rather make you feel like you're doing something wrong for not continuing to hire James Harden old ass. It's not good for the business. The product needs more Maliks. Less Jameses. It's healthier for the entire league as a whole to have more Maliks. Less Jameses. But this middleman with a business is going to keep on trying to push James Harden down our throats. Going to squeeze James for every last bit of sweat that he can give to the game. Who cares who else on the team don't play or develop properly, or whether or not James get hurt trying to run up against these young kids, or whether or not the young kids never develop. It don't matter to him. He don't care. He care less what happened to the league. He just want his business to work out. If something goes wrong, he can cash out. It's that culture right there that I think is bad for the league. Agent culture. Bad for the league. And get these agents the hell up out of here, bro. Get them out of here. If they're not willing to take the risk on opportunities with young talent, maybe it's not as much of a surefire bet. They don't want, they're not really ready to put their whole business behind a young guy. Get him out of here, because this league, it's a young man's league. And we ain't going to keep playing James Harden $50 million a year to give us half of the production price, only to find ourselves under a bad contract with this guy and can't get a bunch of Malik Thomases because he's eating up most of the cap crap going on. Enough. And I've been saying this for 4 years now. No country for old men. None. This is the sport. This is a young man's game, bro. If you want to be in this thing running around at 40, sign up with Ice Cube. Get in the big three, bro. They build that brand up so that they can start paying you $100 million to run around for them. And that's how I feel. Build the old man league up. Lead a young man's league to the young men. Here's my take on that. But anyway, man, and you know, I never made a video on the Enes Kanter situation, him and the other dude, a politician, I can't think of his name, trying to be WNBA players. I never made a video on that. I don't know, man. I really don't. I don't believe natural born men should be running around in women's leagues. I'm not one to tell you can't do this or do that, but when it comes to the spirit of competition, if we're going to have unisex leagues, let's have unisex leagues. But don't tell me that we have a league that's made for women and then you're bringing in naturalized born men into the league to run around with women. I just think that that's unfair to the women. The born women who on average are not going to be as strong, who are going to have to take punishment that they shouldn't have to go up against because they're playing against men. They didn't sign up for that. That's not what you sold to the public either. And so from that standpoint, I kind of understand what people like Enes Kanter are trying to say. Although I do think it's a bit of a straw man scenario with Enes Kanter, because it ain't like any women, trans women are trying to join the WNBA. Now I can see if there was a trans woman trying to get into the league, that would be an entirely different conversation. But that there are none, I don't know why pointing out the hypocrisy, so to speak, is overly necessary, other than to bring attention to yourself. I just don't think it holds much fruit other than that. It's a spectacle, and for that I don't really respect it. But I think it's also a necessary conversation to have, just the same. Because in the presence of trying to be fair to the trans community, you're being unfair to the female community. And I'm of the mindset that if we can't be fair to everybody, then we're not doing it right. I think you should have unisex leagues if you want to do that. Come up with a unisex league. If you want to come up with a trans league, come up with a trans league where only trans individuals play. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that they have enough talent for that in the athletic world. I don't know if you have enough trans individuals playing basketball for that. But I do think that that would be what was fair. But asking the women to play against men in predominantly male arenas or predominantly female arenas, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to the women specifically. I don't think it's fair. Because they're going to take on punishment that is not necessary while we're sitting up here trying to keep things psychologically fair and the grandiose idea of what a woman is versus what a man is and all that shit. Trying to keep that culture strong and trying to keep the people who that matters to the most feeling loved and appreciated and welcome. You end up running bodies up against one another that have no business running up against one another. And you talk about like the idea of heavyweights going up against lightweights in boxing and fighting. There's a reason why you don't let that happen. It could be very dangerous for that lightweight. They ain't got no chance of knocking out that big dude at all. I don't care how good they are, how skilled they are. All it takes is one punch. It can really leave them, it can end their careers. You know what I'm saying? This is no different there. In the presence of trying to be respectful of everybody's mind, we have to be honest about the scientific nature of what it is that we're confronted with. And if we're ignoring the science, then we're being irresponsible. And if we can't incorporate into that part of the conversation, into the respectful part of the conversation, then we're leading people down a path where they're going to take losses that are unnecessary to take. I want to be as respectful and open and welcoming to my trans community friends as possible.